Seahawks up against the Buffalo Bills, NFL Week 9. The Seahawks at 6-1, the Bills at 5-2. Both football teams here looking to obviously get a win and better their chances in making the playoffs.
This is a good matchup, man. Look, Seattle, they only play weird football games. They always have wild finishes that come down to the wire, even in situations that maybe they shouldn't come down to the wire in. They are on the road in this one against Buffalo. Despite that, the current odds, which I'm sure will change, actually have the Seahawks as the favorites in this one by 3.5. So I am very curious to see how this game ends up playing out here. I think this is going to be a fun matchup, a good matchup to watch. I think you'll see the Seahawks have another close game because that's only what ends up happening here. These 6-2 Seahawks against these 6-1 Seahawks against the 6-2 Buffalo Bills. I think it's going to be fun, Mitch.
I think it's going to be a good game. I'm going to take Seattle, though. I think they're going to end up winning this football game. There's going to be a lot of points. Russell Wilson's just you just can't stop that offense whatsoever. Can Josh Allen, though, step up and show that, hey, I deserve to be in the talks with some of these top quarterbacks? So Seattle's last 5 games.
They've all been fun.
They have all been very, very fun. I mean, but I'm also going to say
Niners
this.
dragged themselves into it late. Cardinals, they blew a 10-point lead, lost in overtime. Minnesota came back and found a way to win that one. The Dolphins, they made it close. The Cowboys made it close as well. Meanwhile, the Bills, they haven't been the same. The past month or so, or so I should say 4 games, that's not the same football team we saw in the first half.
I mean, the offense just isn't really able to move the ball, and I think it all started back with the Titans game, and they got absolutely roasted, and then that's where you really started to see this defense get exposed, especially against the run. Look at the Chiefs game. They exposed them against the run. The Jets, sure, they won by – but they didn't even score a touchdown. I mean, this has been a very, very pathetic offense from top to bottom, and honestly, they probably should have lost last week as well. I mean, if the defense doesn't force that turnover on Cam Newton, I mean, we're sitting here and looking at the team that, sure, they might be 5-3, but 6-2. It's an ugly 6-2 in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of a clunker against the Jets and the Patriots, lesser teams. Yeah, they lost to the Chiefs, Titans. I understand that, though. I think one of the main issues has been Josh Allen. He hasn't been the same guy. He was MVP caliber quarterback at the first 4 games of the year, and since then he's really struggled. He has looked like the inconsistent guy we saw last year. And this could be a get-right game for him against a pretty mediocre Seahawks defense, but I think Russell Wilson, with the way the Bills defense has played, is just licking his chops going, let's go, baby. Let's go. This is going to be a big game for me.
So let us know. Predict the score. Bills versus the Seattle Seahawks. Get your comments down there. We could probably give out a few shout-outs to the people that get it in quick. Tom, predict the score. What do you think?
I was going to do it later on. I'll do it right now, though. Seahawks win 30-27. The Bills make a late rally to make it a game, and Seattle holds on in a crazy one because that's just how the Seahawks games go. They're never simple.
Let's look at some injuries now for the Seahawks. Chris Carson's got the foot. Carlos Hyde, again, banged up. And then Mike Iupati.
Yeah, Iupati's been banged up with a back. Has missed more or less 3 straight games here. Carlos Hyde is in a bit of a weird spot in terms of his health status. He might be less likely to play in this upcoming game. Chris Carson, however, has almost played last week. Now, the plan here for Seattle is that Carson is not going to be able to go until later on in the week. They're going to ease him back in. They're not going to throw him in immediately. They're looking for maybe Friday he's able to return to practice and all of that. So we'll see what ends up happening with Chris Carson. He's kind of in a unique and tricky situation. The real question mark around Seattle is defensively. Jamal Adams, is he going to be able to play here? I don't know what ends up happening on that front for the Seahawks and for Jamal Adams. Now, there hopefully returns to practice. He's going to be on a pitch count this week, and if he gets a full practice in at some point, he'll play. But we've more or less heard that for 2 straight weeks.
Yep.
And I don't know what that really means for Seattle. They're banged up in the secondary right now. I think DJ Reed made some nice plays as kind of a safety nickel hybrid. But Ugo Amadi's been banged up. Shaquille Griffin's been banged up. And that team misses Jamal Adams. Specifically, they miss him blitzing. That pass rush has not been the same without him. So I'm very curious to see how things end up going.
Y for yes or N for no. Does Jamal Adams end up playing this week against the Buffalo Bills? Get your votes in here. This was an injury that, I mean, this goes way back to, heck, when he was suiting up in his living room with his helmet strapped on. I think every single week I'm like, oh, Jamal's going to play. Oh, Jamal's going to play. Oh, he's going to play.
I thought that too, man.
And we're still talking about it. So I'm gonna cut my losses here. I'm going to type my N for no.
I think this is the week. I'll keep doubling down until he actually plays and then just claim victory. There we go.
Let's look at some more defensive injuries here for Seattle, Tom.
Well, we mentioned, of course, Jamal Adams. Shaquille Griffin has a concussion, also kind of a hamstring issue as well. Ugo Amadi was banged up with his hamstring. Good news for Seattle is it appears, at least that's what Pete Carroll thinks, that Benson Mayowa is going to be able to make a return from his own injury and get back out there on the football field. That'll be a nice boost for a pass rush that really does need it. They just don't have the ideal pieces and the impact I think they're looking for right now. They're getting Carlos Dunlap back. Mayowa's been their most consistent pass rusher, though, this season.
If you're looking for the best NFL coverage all season long, make sure you go ahead and subscribe. If you're watching this live on Chat Sports, again, subscribe. If you're watching this on our Seahawks channel, hit that subscribe button. If you've never heard of the Seahawks channel, it's the fastest growing Seattle channel right now on YouTube.
Fastest growing channel in Chat Sports history as
wow.
well. Yeah.
Wow, that's a humble brag. YouTube.com/Seahawks TV. Go check it out. Make sure you stay up to date on the latest news and rumors around Seattle. Benson Mayowa, this has been a player that I was actually hoping that the Raiders would end up keeping. He knows exactly what his role is. He plays that role very well. And if he's able to come back, this would be a huge help since Bruce Irvin went down.
It's not saying much, but especially with Irvin out, and even though Dunlap's about to come in, on the field this year for Seattle, Mayowa has been the most consistent and disruptive player for this team in terms of the edge guys. They have DeMontre Moore, but he's now suspended. He's going to miss some time. He's going to miss 6 games. LJ Collier has been pretty whatever so far. They've tried to use Jonathan Bullard as like a defensive end DT hybrid. Rasheem Green could come back soon, but they need Mayowa out there, and ideally pairing him with Carlos Dunlap is going to make a nice impact.
So we got 2 6-win teams here. Seattle at 6-1. Buffalo at 6-2. Both teams, I think we all would agree, are probably going to end up making the playoffs. But this is one of those matchups where I always feel like Seattle struggles in these type of games because if Buffalo comes out and gets physical, this is a game where it could be 3 quarters of really boringness, and then the fourth quarter could just absolutely light up.
Seahawks get weird, baby. That's what happens in these games.
They do. And right now, they are 6-1. They have some pretty good odds to end up winning that division. But I'm curious on how this one ultimately shakes out. But then look at this. I thought this was pretty interesting. The Bills -1 in point differential. I mean, shout out to the Dolphins. But
Point differential is a good way of indicating what teams could regress. It's not a great current indicator. It is, however, a pretty decent future indicator. But for Buffalo,
at 6-2 to be -1, that tells a story.
It was a 42-16 blowout at the hands of Tennessee. Like, that's what changed everything. They've had a lot of close wins. Rams by 3, the Jets by 8. That was kind of a weird matchup. The Patriots by 3. So because you've only played a couple of games, one big outlier, in this case a blowout loss at the hands of the Tennessee Titans, drastically changed the impact there. So because of that, it's a little bit lower for Buffalo. Seahawks have a pretty good point differential. They've won some close games. That's why I think this game ends up being close in what I think is one of the better 1 p.m. matchups this week.